Welcome to the debate. You know, when we analyze championship teams, we often look at the tension between two fundamentally opposing methods of building a winner. You have the systemic, architectural approach, where every single variable is controlled.
Right, versus the brute force physical approach that simply, imposes its will on the opposition.
Exactly. It's the classic collision of a perfectly calibrated machine running into a hydraulic press. And today, we're looking at the highly anticipated Transatlantic Football League Year 1 Championship taking place down in Panama City, Florida.
The stage is absolutely set. I mean, this inaugural TAFL season has delivered on all its promises. And we're left with just one defining question.
Who will win this historic first championship? Is it the European Conference powerhouse, the Copenhagen Angels, or the gritty American Conference survivor, the Las Vegas Aces?
It's the matchup everyone wanted.
For sure. And I will be arguing that the Copenhagen Angels, with their systemic offensive balance, elite statistical dominance, and an undeniable air of inevitability, make them the clear and destined champions.
Well, and I will counter that the Las Vegas Aces, fueled by their battle-tested resilience, late-season momentum, and an unstoppable clock-controlling rushing attack, will physically overwhelm Copenhagen's polished systems.
Let's lay out the reality of the Copenhagen Angels first. I mean, you're looking at the undeniable class of the EUC East, and honestly, the entire league. They finished the regular season with a 9-1 record.
Sure, on paper, they look fantastic.
It's more than just paper, though. They won the midseason tournament by completely dismantling San Francisco 38-3. And they just defeated a phenomenal Stuttgart Stallions team, 30-24, in the Continental Championship. But it isn't just the record, it's the mechanics of how they win.
Which is very, systematic.
Highly systematic. This is an elite, multi-dimensional offense led by quarterback Alden Schroeder. He posted a 91.1 QB rating over the season and just threw for 315 yards and 3 touchdowns against Stuttgart. Copenhagen runs this highly sophisticated, timing-based offensive system.
Right, the constant pre-snap motion.
Exactly. They use that motion to diagnose the defensive coverage, allowing Schroeder to know exactly where the mathematical advantage lies before the ball is even snapped. And, if you drop 8 men into coverage to stop the pass, they just hand the ball to Kipper Pearson.
The MVP finalist.
Yeah, who just ran for 145 yards against Stuttgart. A team with this level of balanced firepower, supported by a defense featuring DPOY finalist Felipe McKenzie, possesses a closed-loop system of problem-solving. Whatever tactical question a defense asks, Copenhagen has the mathematical answer.
Okay, but your entire premise assumes that football is played on a spreadsheet.
I mean, the math usually wins out.
Not in the trenches. The reality of the Las Vegas Aces proves that sheer physical dominance breaks mathematical models. Vegas survived the absolute chaos of the AMC West. Yes, they finished 7-3, but they are peaking at the exact perfect moment.
You're talking about the Newport News game?
Oh, absolutely. That stunning 28-20 upset over the 9-1 Newport News Seafarers in the AMC Championship. Style points do not win championships. Displacement does. My argument centers entirely on Offensive Player of the Year finalist Tyree Wolff.
He has been on a tear, I'll admit.
He's a human wrecking ball right now. He put up 154 yards and 2 touchdowns against San Antonio, and then delivered a staggering 25-carry, 157-yard, 3-touchdown performance against Newport News.
That is heavy volume.
It is. Vegas operates primarily out of heavy personnel packages, bringing in extra tight ends, utilizing fullback Elliott Clark. They aren't trying to trick you with pre-snap motion. They are using gap-blocking schemes to create double teams at the point of attack.
Just moving guys backward.
Exactly. Physically moving defensive linemen backwards. Vegas's ground and pound identity is the ultimate neutralizing force. You cannot execute a pristine timing-based passing attack if your defense has been on the field for 40 minutes getting physically bludgeoned.
Okay, but you are characterizing the modern game as if sheer physical force is enough to overcome structural disadvantages. The math simply doesn't support that over a full 60 minutes. Vegas's offense is operating a fundamentally one-dimensional offense.
It's a dimension nobody can stop, though.
Maybe, but it's effective mostly at controlling the clock. It has an absolute ceiling when it comes to expected points added, or EPA. Copenhagen's offense is like a mythical hydra.
A hydra? Okay, explain that.
Well, if you manage to cut off Kipper Pearson's running lanes, which requires bringing a safety down into the box, you are mathematically guaranteeing that one of Copenhagen's receivers is left in single coverage. Alden Schroeder processes those mismatches instantly.
He's quick, yeah.
He hit Lamar Daniels for a 28-yard touchdown against Stuttgart, the literal moment the safety vacated the deep third. And he relies on tight end Mohamed Payne to exploit the middle of the field if the linebackers overcommit to the run. So how can Vegas mathematically keep pace in a dogfight when their own quarterback is essentially a spectator?
Because they don't get into a dogfight. They keep pace by altering the total number of possessions in the game. You are looking at offensive efficiency without factoring in volume restriction.
Volume restriction?
Yeah. Vegas genuinely doesn't care about a shootout because their run game dictates the literal fabric of the game script. Let's look back at that AMC championship against Newport News. Vegas quarterback Barry Freeman threw for exactly 51 yards.
Which is terrible.
By every traditional analytical metric you want to cite, a quarterback throwing for 51 yards means his team loses by double digits. Yet Vegas dropped 28 points on the number 1 seed.
Because they just kept handing it off.
Right. Handing the ball to Tyree Wolf 25 times behind Elliott Clark's lead blocking completely monopolizes the clock. They aren't trying to match Schroeder point for point. They're actively suppressing his volume. You can't score if you don't have the ball.
So they shrink the game.
Exactly. A normal game might have 12 possessions per team. Vegas turns it into an 8-possession game. In a low-possession game, a single mistake by Copenhagen is magnified exponentially. Meanwhile, the physical attrition of those 25 heavy runs eventually breaks the discipline of the opposing defensive line.
Okay, but that entire strategy relies on the assumption that Copenhagen's defense will just passively allow Tyree Wolf to grind out those 4-yard gains and dictate the pace. This isn't the Newport News defense we're talking about.
They still have to tackle him.
True, but this is Copenhagen's defensive elite, and they have the specific personnel to dismantle that exact strategy. Look at the mechanics of what Las Vegas actually requires. To run heavy gap schemes successfully, you still need the opposing safeties to respect the boundary.
Right, to keep them out of the box.
Exactly. You need the threat of an outside pass to prevent the defense from playing zero coverage. But Copenhagen features cornerback Philippe McKenzie, a Defensive Player of the Year finalist. McKenzie plays this incredibly disruptive press-man technique.
He is very physical at the line.
He completely erases the outside receiver at the line of scrimmage, requiring absolutely no over-the-top safety help. Because McKenzie locks down his side of the field on an island, it allows the Angels to comfortably stack 7 or 8 defenders in the box on every single down.
I see where you're going.
They have the numerical advantage at the line of scrimmage. Remember, Vegas gave up 21 points to San Antonio before facing Newport News. If the Aces' defense is forced onto the field because the run game hits a brick wall, I have to question if they can withstand Schroeder's seamlessly shifting from a power run game into a spread passing attack.
See, here's the flaw in that. Vegas operates entirely between the tackles. They genuinely do not care if Felipe McKenzie erases the outside receiver.
How can they not care?
Because you can put the greatest cover corner in TAFL history out on the boundary, and his impact is completely neutralized if the ball is just being handed off to a 220-pound running back running behind a pulling guard into the A-gap. McKenzie can't tackle Tyree Wolf from 30 yards away.
Well, sure, not directly.
And if you want to examine defensive vulnerabilities, let's turn the spotlight onto Copenhagen for a second. You praise their surgical precision, yet they just surrendered 24 points to Stuttgart. More importantly, Alden Schroeder threw 2 interceptions in that Continental Championship.
That was a weird game, though.
Weird or not, he threw them. He is a brilliant processor, yes, but he is not infallible when the pocket collapses.
Okay, let's contextualize those interceptions, though. Schroeder was facing a highly aggressive, high-variance European defensive scheme. Stuttgart runs a complex trap coverage where cornerbacks intentionally sit on underneath routes to bait the quarterback.
It's a tricky scheme for sure.
Very tricky. And Vegas simply does not have the secondary personnel to execute that level of disguised coverage.
But Vegas doesn't need to run complex trap coverages in the secondary. They generate organic interior pressure, which is honestly far more destructive to a timing-based quarterback.
You're talking about Carl Crosby.
Crosby and outside linebacker Moises Hodge. Hodge racked up a crucial sack and 2 tackles for loss in the playoffs, while Crosby disrupts the interior. Edge rushers make a quarterback step up into the pocket. Interior rushers like Crosby make a quarterback step backwards.
And that ruins the timing.
Completely. When a quarterback has to step backwards, his throwing mechanics break down, his platform is compromised, and those perfectly timed option routes you mentioned are just completely blown up. If Crosby pushes the center straight back into Schroeder's lap, Schroeder will force the ball, just like he did against Stuttgart.
You think they'll force turnovers?
Vegas will absolutely generate turnovers. And against a team built like Vegas, a turnover isn't just a loss of possession, it's a death sentence. It means you're immediately subjected to another grueling 8-minute drive engineered by Tyree Wolff.
But assuming that interior pressure will consistently get home ignores how Dewey Irwin and the Copenhagen coaching staff design their pass protection. They don't just leave their center on an island against an elite defensive tackle.
They do use a lot of slide protection.
Right, they utilize slide protection, and they keep Kipper Pearson in the backfield to pick up the blitz. Beyond the physical matchups, however, the determining factor in Panama City is going to be the psychological weight both of these teams are carrying.
Oh, I totally agree.
At this level of the sport, when the physical talent is so concentrated, the margin of victory is usually decided by mental execution under pressure.
Well, I'm glad you brought up psychology, because the mental edge belongs entirely to the Las Vegas Aces. They are playing with house money, and their psychology is rooted in something profound: habituation to adversity.
Habituation? You mean because they had a rough stretch?
Yes! Look back at their middle of the season, specifically the brutal 10-24 blowout loss to the Dallas Wranglers. Because of a rescheduled flight, they arrived in Dallas severely jet-lagged just 3 hours before kickoff.
Right. That was a scheduling nightmare.
They stepped into a chaotic, miserable environment and got dominated. But the vital takeaway is how head coach Zachariah Boyer handled it. He told the press, flying in the morning of a game, losing sleep, that affects anyone. That said, fatigue isn't an excuse. It's a reality we have to handle better.
He didn't let them off the hook.
Exactly. He built an incredible culture of accountability. Because they have constantly operated in chaotic, high-stress environments, their in-game adaptability is off the charts. They don't panic when a play breaks down. Contrast that with Copenhagen's locker room culture.
Copenhagen is incredibly disciplined.
Disciplined or arrogant? After the Angels won the midseason tournament, a veteran literally told the press, "Pressure's for teams hoping. We expect." I mean, that mindset borders on hubris.
I don't see it that way.
Perfection is an incredibly fragile psychological state. When your entire identity is built on flawless execution, what happens when Vegas punches them in the mouth early? If Vegas takes a 10-0 lead, does that expectation of perfection suddenly crack into panic?
See, you are misinterpreting earned confidence as hubris, and you are mistaking systemic excellence for fragility. Copenhagen isn't a glass cannon. They are a forged broadsword.
A broadsword, huh?
Yes. They aren't a team that shatters when pushed. Their expectation of success is the natural psychological byproduct of superior preparation. You claim they haven't faced adversity, yet they just survived an absolute shootout against Stuttgart where they had to rally in the fourth quarter.
Stuttgart isn't Vegas, though.
But they played the last several weeks of the season carrying the massive, heavy target of being the league's last undefeated team. Every single opponent treated their game against Copenhagen like the Super Bowl, and Copenhagen never flinched.
They had some close calls.
But they won. Remember when Orlando's quarterback was throwing his helmet in the tunnel out of sheer frustration because Copenhagen systematically dismantled them? The Angels didn't celebrate. They just went back to work.
Still, we expect is a bold statement.
The quote, "pressures for teams hoping, we expect," is not arrogance. It is a reflection of a team that knows exactly what their contingencies are. When you practice perfectly and your execution is statistically superior, you don't hope to win. Vegas has grit because they've been forced to constantly dig themselves out of holes.
And they do it well.
They do, but Copenhagen doesn't have to demonstrate how well they dig out of holes because their discipline prevents them from falling into them in the first place.
But that lack of exposure to pure chaos is exactly their vulnerability. What happens when the blueprint actually fails? What happens when Copenhagen runs their perfectly designed inside zone play, and keeper Pearson is met in the A-gap by Carl Crosby for a 2-yard loss on first down?
They adjust.
And then it happens again on second down? Suddenly, Alden Schroeder is staring at third and long, the playbook shrinks, and Moises Hodge is pinning his ears back on the edge. Vegas thrives in the mud.
The mud?
Yeah, they intentionally drag opponents into the deep water, where sophisticated blueprints disintegrate into pure physical survival. Copenhagen may have rallied against Stuttgart, but Stuttgart is a finesse team. Copenhagen hasn't been hit by a continuous, relentless physical force like Tyree Wolff in the fourth quarter.
They are well-conditioned.
Exhaustion makes cowards of us all. A complex offensive scheme relies on legs that aren't heavy and minds that aren't battered.
You can't just assume that a brute force approach automatically succeeds against a fundamentally disciplined defense, though. Copenhagen's coaching staff has seen every iteration of a heavy run game in the EUC.
Not like Tyree Wolff.
Maybe not quite as potent, but the Angels' defense thrives on gap integrity. They don't rely on flashy plays. They rely on every single linebacker and defensive lineman filling their exact assigned gap. They won't over-pursue the play, they won't get caught out of position by play-action fakes, and they are incredibly efficient at tackling in space.
They still have to absorb the impact.
They will. They are going to force Barry Freeman to prove he can beat them on 3rd and 7. If the TFL championship genuinely comes down to Barry Freeman needing to read a defense, manipulate a safety, and make a tight window throw against Felipe McKenzie, well, the mathematics heavily favor the Angels.
That assumes Copenhagen gets them to 3rd and 7.
Which they will.
The brutal reality of playing the Las Vegas Aces is that you rarely see 3rd and 7. You see 3rd and 2. You see Tyree Wolff falling forward through contact for 4 yards every single time he touches the ball.
4 yards a carry is tough to sustain for a whole game.
But they do it. You see Elliott Clark burying a middle linebacker in the B gap to create just enough displacement to move the chains. It is an exhausting, bruising, hyper-physical reality that Copenhagen simply has not had to face during their pristine run through the EUC East.
Well, if we synthesize these distinct positions, the argument for Copenhagen is firmly rooted in undeniable statistical excellence and structural superiority. They possess a systemic advantage.
True.
They have an offense that can seamlessly adapt to win on the ground with Pearson or exploit the deepest parts of the secondary in the air with Schroeder. They have established a rigorous, mathematically sound standard of excellence that has defined the first year of the TAFL. I mean, they possess the resume, the data, and the execution of a true juggernaut.
Right. And the argument for Las Vegas is all about momentum, psychological resilience, and sheer physical force. They are the hottest team in the league.
They definitely have the momentum.
They were forged by the adversity of a chaotic schedule and a grueling conference, and they possess a singular, unstoppable rushing weapon in Tyree Wolff. Their entire strategy is designed to break opposing defensive schemes, not by outsmarting them, but by physically exhausting the men lined up across from them until their discipline fails.
We can certainly agree that the TFL couldn't have asked for a more compelling inaugural championship matchup. It is a classic clash between a polished, dominant European machine and a gritty, highly physical American survivor.
Absolutely.
The ultimate decider will be exactly what we've explored here, whether structural perfection, schematic adjustments, and offensive balance can withstand brute force momentum and the sheer will of a ground-and-pound identity.
It really is a beautiful narrative arc for the TFL's first season. You know, we can dissect the theory, the expected points added, the gap schemes, and the psychological posturing all day.
We certainly have.
But the beauty of this sport is that these opposing philosophies can't remain theoretical forever. They finally have to be physically tested on the turf in Panama City. The blueprints have to survive the impact.
The theories end at kickoff. It's up to the listeners to decide which philosophy they believe will ultimately raise the trophy. Do you trust the architect's precise, adaptable systems, or do you bet on the unstoppable physical force of the wrecking ball? We will find out in Panama City. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the TFL Championship.
You know, when you walk into a major casino for the first time, you just get hit by this overwhelming sense of design.
Oh, yeah, totally. No clocks, no windows.
Exactly. The winding floors, the free drinks. It's not just for the vibe, right? It's like this flawless algorithm designed so the house takes your money.
Right, because the math always corrects itself eventually.
Yeah.
A player might get hot at blackjack for a bit, but the casino, they aren't sweating. They have that cold structural superiority.
But then, I mean, you look over at the craps table and there's always that one person just throwing a wrench into the whole thing.
The one surviving on pure chaos.
Yes. Sweating, yelling, just rolling the dice with total defiance and somehow surviving on pure grit.
It's the ultimate clash, right?
Yeah.
Systematic perfection against just chaotic survival.
Which is exactly what we are unpacking today. Welcome to a special sports deep dive into the source material. Today we are getting you, the listener, totally prepped for the biggest event in international football.
The inaugural Year 1 TFL Championship down in Panama City.
Yeah, the Transatlantic Football League concluding its very first season.
It's massive. We're watching the foundation of a league's DNA being poured in real time.
And we've been tearing through a giant stack of league data for you. Playoff recaps, deep cut mid-season articles, raw play-by-play logs.
Just to figure out how on earth we got here.
Right, because this isn't just a title game, it's a clash of two totally different identities. On one side, representing the European Conference, the EUC, you have the Copenhagen Angels.
The casino?
Literally the casino. An unstoppable machine. And on the other side, representing the American Conference, the AMC, the Las Vegas Aces.
The battle-tested brawler who just refuses to leave the table.
So let's start with the Goliath, right? Copenhagen, they absolutely dominated the EUC East.
Yeah, they finished the regular season 9-1 under head coach Dewey Irwin. But the record doesn't even tell the full story. It's how they won.
It's staggering. Look at the midseason championship tournament against the San Francisco Whalers.
Oh, the 38-3 game.
38-3. That's not just a win. That's like a structural dismantling of a professional team.
Yeah. They made San Francisco look like an expansion team that didn't know the playbook.
How do you even do that? Conceptually dominate a pro opponent by 35 points.
You remove human error. Coach Irwin built this system based on rapid processing. The quarterback sees the defensive front pre-snap, finds the math mismatch, and the ball is out in under 2 seconds.
The San Francisco couldn't even generate a pass rush.
Exactly. The ball was already gone. Copenhagen doesn't run plays, they execute sequences.
Wow.
And that creates a terrifying culture. I found this quote in a mid-season article from a Copenhagen veteran. A reporter asked if being undefeated added pressure.
And what did he say?
He smirked and said, "Pressure is for teams hoping. We expect."
We expect. Man, you step onto the field and they don't even view you as an opponent, just a variable they already solved.
Right, and we saw that in round 2 against the Athens Titans.
Oh, yeah, casually dispatching them 27-7. Kipper Pearson carved them up for 152 rushing yards.
And Joshua Cannon had those 2 receiving touchdowns.
Yeah.
Totally methodical.
But I have to push back a little here. When a team is that used to front running, like when their whole identity is built on pristine expectation, does that make them fragile?
That is the big question.
Right. Because what if the game turns into a messy street fight? Do they have the emotional muscle memory for that?
I agree, it's the defining variable. The frontrunner has a psychological advantage because they dictate the terms. But the moment the math breaks down...
The moment they get punched in the mouth.
Exactly. If they face a 2-score deficit, that expectation can curdle into panic pretty fast.
Which is the absolute perfect pivot to the Las Vegas Aces.
The alley brawlers.
Because if Copenhagen is the pristine casino, Vegas is living in the mud out back. They practically invented the football street fight this year.
Well, they finished 7-3 in the AMC West under Zachariah Boyer, and the contrast is just stark. Vegas didn't have a pristine path. They had to learn to suffer immediately.
Week 1 against the Dallas Wranglers is a masterclass in suffering. A brutal 10-24 loss.
Yeah, but the context is wild. A massive logistical breakdown forced their flight to be rescheduled to the morning of the game.
They landed incredibly jet-lagged, busing straight from the tarmac to the locker room.
And Dallas just bullied them physically. But the fascinating part wasn't the loss. It was Coach Boyer's post-game press conference.
Oh, the media handed him every excuse. The league, the airline, the schedule.
And he rejected it all.
Yeah.
He just looked at them and said, "Fatigue isn't an excuse. It's a reality we have to handle better."
Such a great quote.
That single line became their DNA. They embraced this calloused, hardened identity. No schematic trickery, just sheer physical imposition.
And we saw that pay off in round 2 against the San Antonio Outlaws, the Sin City shootout.
A grueling brawl.
But Vegas outlasted them 31-21, basically putting the entire offense on running back Tyree Wolf's shoulders.
He had 154 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns in that game.
Which is kind of ironic, you know. Vegas evokes neon, showgirls, flashy entertainment, but their football team is like a 1980s steel mill.
Very blue collar. Ground and pound and just relentlessly stubborn.
Yeah.
So while Copenhagen learned to dominate, Vegas learned to survive. For you listening, if you're tracking the emotional momentum, Vegas has an edge. They know what their internal gauge looks like when it hits 0.
Copenhagen hasn't had to face that desperation.
Not nearly as much.
Let's test that theory with the Continental Championship semifinals. We dug into the raw play-by-play logs, and the chaos was unbelievable.
Total chaos. The AMC Championship was a bloodbath. Vegas had to travel to play the Newport News Seafarers, the #1 seed, at 9-1.
Yeah, a powerhouse. And the logs show Vegas absorbing huge blows early, down 14-0 in the first quarter.
Later staring at a 20-7 deficit against the best defense in the conference.
Honestly, in most stadiums, down 20-7 to a 9-1 team, you start packing the equipment trunks.
Yeah, but the Aces just leaned on their defensive line and kept feeding Tyree Wolff.
The workload was insane. Over 150 yards, 3 touchdowns.
Including that brutal 8-yard go-ahead run in the fourth quarter to steal it 28-26.
They didn't outsmart Newport News, they just exhausted them.
Meanwhile, on the European side, Copenhagen finally faced that exact scenario you mentioned earlier.
The algorithm crashed against the Stuttgart Stallions.
For the first time all season, Copenhagen had to play from behind.
The game logs are a roller coaster. Down 7-0, then 14-7, tied it, went down 21-14.
Stuttgart refused to be mathematically solved. The Angels had to claw into overtime.
And what happened in overtime?
We saw what they're really made of. Quarterback Alden Schroeder orchestrated a massive drive under pressure and delivered a 28-yard game-winning touchdown strike to Lamar Daniels.
Wow, so they won 30-24.
Schroeder was masterful, 315 passing yards and 3 touchdowns.
So looking at those two semifinals, there's this neat narrative, right? Vegas wins by running Tyree Wolff 30 times. Copenhagen survives by letting Alden Schroeder throw for 300 yards.
Right.
So is this just a classic ground and pound versus high-flying aerial assault matchup?
I mean, it's tempting to say that, but it's entirely too simplistic.
Really, what?
It ignores Copenhagen's underlying mechanics. Yes, they used Schroeder's arm to escape, but they aren't one-dimensional. Kipper Pearson rushed for 145 yards in that overtime win.
Oh, wow. I missed that.
Copenhagen has multi-dimensional completeness. They run with terrifying efficiency using zone blocking. Vegas, conversely, is less symmetric.
They just rely on gap blocking and sheer willpower.
Exactly. The real question is whether the Vegas defense can take away Copenhagen's rushing attack and force them into being one-dimensional.
Force them to abandon the run, make Schroeder drop back 50 times, and hope the pass rush disrupts the algorithm.
Precisely.
So let's translate this to the actual chess match on the field. What individual matchups should you be tracking when the ball is kicked off?
The focal point is the running back duel. Vegas is Tyree Wolff versus Copenhagen's Kipper Pearson. Both are TFL Offensive Player of the Year finalists.
But totally different styles.
Completely. Pearson is a one-cut, efficient runner gliding through pristine lanes. Wolff is a battering ram who makes contact behind the line and drags 2 guys for extra yards.
And the quarterback dynamic is polarizing too. Alden Schroeder is an OPOY finalist, processing the field beautifully with massive yardage.
The Flash.
Right. And Vegas has Barry Freeman, the gritty game manager.
He won't throw for 350 yards or make the highlight reel. But on 3rd and 4 in the fourth quarter, Freeman will stand in the collapsing pocket, take a vicious hit, and deliver a 5-yard slant to keep the drive alive.
That's all they need. But we have to talk about defense because Copenhagen has the ultimate equalizer.
Cornerback Felipe McKenzie.
Yes, Defensive Player of the Year finalist.
A pure shutdown corner. He uses aggressive press man technique at the line, disrupts the timing so completely that the quarterback basically has to write off half the field.
So if you're sitting on the couch this weekend watching with friends, what's the smartest tactical thing you can say to sound like an expert?
Watch the personnel groupings on first down. The whole game hinges on whether Vegas can force Copenhagen into heavy defensive fronts.
How do they do that?
If Vegas brings extra tight ends and runs Tyree Wolff right at the defense on 1st and 10, they do 3 things. Dictate the tempo, keep Schroeder freezing on the sideline, and neutralize Felipe McKenzie.
Because McKenzie wants to cover receivers in space, not tackle a running back.
Exactly. You force a 190-pound corner to tackle a 230-pound running back all day. But if Copenhagen stuffs the run on first down,
Vegas is in 3rd and long.
And they do not have the sophisticated passing attack to win a track meet against McKenzie and that secondary.
So it literally comes down to whether Vegas is facing 2nd and 3 or 2nd and 9. If the Aces are playing behind the chains, the house wins.
That's the game right there.
So pulling the lens back, we have the undefeated mathematical expectations of the Copenhagen Angels taking on the calloused, gritty resilience of the Las Vegas Aces.
2 superstar running backs, brilliant coaching, and 2 totally different paths to Panama City.
Why does every single snap of this game matter so much for the listener?
Because it's year 1. It's not just a trophy, it's the history books. The winner establishes the dominant schematic DNA for the TAFL for the next decade.
Oh, wow.
Do franchises decide the European precision model is the blueprint? Or do they realize the American gritty physical attrition model is the only way to survive? The victor sets the architectural standard for every GM.
Which brings us right back to the casino floor. We've spent this deep dive unpacking the data logs, the tactics, the probabilities.
Once they step on the grass.
Exactly. With the whole world watching this brand new league conclude its first chapter, how much does the data really matter compared to pure, unfiltered human adrenaline?
When the playbook goes out the window.
Yeah, when the algorithm crashes and the dice are in the air for that final chaotic roll, which team's culture is actually going to catch the ball, that is what we are all waiting to find out. Enjoy the championship.
Welcome to the TAFL News Network's broadcast of the Transatlantic Football League Championship. I'm your co-host, Jacob Baxter, joined by Demi Jackson.
Thanks, Jacob. We've got an all-timer matchup. The Copenhagen Angels taking on the Las Vegas Aces here in Panama City, Florida.
It's going to be a great one. Let's head down to the action at Reefside Stadium.
Wasting away again in Margaritaville.
Here at the Axis Football League, my name is Andy McNamara, and welcome to another great matchup. Our game today features 2 evenly matched teams. Any small mistake could be the difference in the final score. We are moments away from what promises to be a close and exciting matchup. Let's get down to the field. And Floyd makes the kick. The kickoff is caught. And down he goes. Let's see what the offense has dialed up for the first play of this drive. Go! Pearson gets the ball. And he's stopped around the 40-yard line. Gain of 11. A dime set for the defense. Schroeder surveys the field, throws one, it's caught by Pearson. Winston makes the tackle. Gain of 17. 1st and 10 for the offense. Schroeder on the handoff, brought down up near the line of scrimmage. That brings up 2nd down. 4th play of the drive. He steps back to pass. He sees a target over the middle, and he misses his target. 3rd down for the offense. 3 yards to go. Schroeder steps back into the pocket. And it's deflected down. Incomplete. The punt team lines up to kick this one away. Flair will boot this one away. And the punt sails out of bounds. Let's see what Vegas does to start this drive. Hike! And the defender got him down. Gain of 9 on the play. Freeman drops back to pass. There's a penalty flag on the field, and he's brought down in the backfield for a sack. Let's see how the penalty affects that play. Ref is going to catch him for defensive holding. They'll accept the penalty. A nickel set for the defense. Freeman drops back to pass. He makes the throw by the 20-yard line, and he's tackled right away. Small gain on the play. The offense coming in with a two-back set. Hands it off to the left side, and he's tackled here. That's good for about 7 yards. Vegas breaks the huddle and comes up to the line. The QB tucks it and scrambles, and he safely slides to the ground. Gain of 1 on the play. Vegas gets set on second down. Go! Freeman hands it off, and he's tackled. That's good for a gain of 4. Third down. Go! Freeman hands it off. And he's stopped around the 40-yard line. Gain of 9 on the play. First and 10. Hike. Throw bust through. Sacked him. Loss of 11 on the play. Second down. Hike. He drops back. Freeman lets it go. And down he goes. That will go for about 8 yards. Third down coming up for Las Vegas. Freeman drops back to pass. And it's picked off by the defense. And he's brought to the turf. First and 10. Pearson gets the ball. And he'll be brought down by the defense. Tackle made by Kelly. Gain of 10 on the play. First and 10 for the offense. Schroeder on the handoff. Tackle made by Alvarez. That gets us to second down. Second and 10 for the offense. Schroeder surveys the field. The pass connects. He's taken down near the 35-yard line. Gain of 8 on the play. The offense will operate from the pistol set. Schroeder will give it away. He's taken down near the 35-yard line. That will bring up fourth down. The punt team makes its way up the line. The first quarter comes to an end. Still 0-0. The punt team lines up to kick this one away. Go! Blair kicks it away. And the punt will land out of bounds. First and 10 for the offense. The receiver goes into motion. Go! Freeman lets it go. And he'll be pulled down immediately. A nice pickup there by the offense. The offense sets up under center. Freeman hands it off. Breaking out of the tackle. He'll be brought down up near the 50. Gain of 11. First and 10 for the offense. Go! Freeman with the handoff. Breaking out of the tackle. Chapman's got him for the tackle. Gain of 11. Las Vegas sets up on first down. He drops back to pass. A flag on the play. He lets one go deep down the field. Deflected by the defender and incomplete. We'll see if the penalty affects the outcome. Ref is going to catch him for defensive holding. They'll accept the penalty. Fifth play of the drive. He sees a target over the middle. Batted down and incomplete. Second and 10. Receiver in motion. The runner takes the inside handoff. Wrapped up, brought down. Walsh with the tackle. Gain of 9 on the play. Third down. Just 1 yard to go. Freeman hands it off. Ward wraps him up for the tackle. Good enough for a first down. First and 10 for the offense. He hands it to the runner. Touchdown! They'll opt for the single point attempt here. Go! And Floyd makes the kick. And the extra point is good. Las Vegas rolls the dice and strikes first today with that score. And onto the field comes the kicking team. And Floyd makes the kick. Missed tackle, and down he goes. Let's see what the offense has dialed up for the first play of this drive. Receiver in motion. Schroeder on the handoff. He'll be tackled near the 45. That will keep the chains moving. First and 10 for the offense. There's a flag on the play. Ooh, somebody jumped. That's going to be a false start. They will accept the penalty. Third play of the drive. Schroeder surveys the field. Makes the throw. The pass is knocked down. Incomplete. Second down. 9 yards to go. Pearson gets the ball. Doyle with the tackle. They'll pick up a couple yards there. Third down. 12 yards to go. He'll pitch it off to the runner. And he's brought to the turf. Gain of 4 on the play. The punt team takes the field. Blair kicks it away. The punt will sail into the end zone for a touchback. They'll start things off from the 20. He makes the inside handoff. Tackle made up by the 30-yard line. That's good for 10 yards. Second play of the drive. He drops back into the pocket. He tosses one just beyond the line of scrimmage. Incomplete pass. Third play of the drive. Motion for the offense. Freeman steps back to throw. And he's hit right away and taken down. A nice pickup there by the offense. The offense will operate from the gun. First and 10 for the offense. They'll send a player in motion. Freeman drops back to pass. Penalty flag on the field, and he misses the target. Let's see what the call is. Holding is going to be the call. The referee caught him, and they'll accept the penalty. Vegas breaks the huddle and comes up to the line. He drops back into the pocket. He tosses it off to the left side of the field. Tipped away and incomplete. 2nd and 10. He drops back into the pocket. Tipped away and incomplete. 3rd down coming up for Las Vegas.
Hike!
Freeman makes the throw. Deflected by the defender and incomplete. The offense sets up to punt one away.
Go!
He makes the punt. And the punt will land out of bounds. The offense looks to get things going here on 1st down. Schroeder surveys the field. Incomplete pass. Second and 10. Schroeder surveys the field. Rockets one. Batted down and incomplete. Operating out of the pistol. Hand off to Pearson. And Kelly makes the tackle. Gain of 5 on the play. Vegas calling a timeout here. That will be their first of the half. The punt team makes its way up the line. He punts it away. The punt is fielded. And the defender got him down. Let's see what the offense has dialed up for the first play of this drive.
Hike!
He finds a target on the right side of the field. And it's deflected down. Incomplete. A 2 tight end set for the offense.
Hike!
Freeman drops back to pass. And it's knocked away by the defense. 3rd down and 10 to go. Freeman hands it off. And the tackle will be made by Chapman. Gain of 5 on the play, and the defense calls timeout. That will be their first. The offense sets up to punt one away.
Go!
Bailey will kick it away. He'll return the kick up near the 30. The offense looks to get things going here on 1st down. He drops back, finds a target on the left side of the field. Cannon with the catch. Doyle with the tackle. A flag on the play. We'll see if the penalty affects the outcome. Oh, his hands closed on the face mask. That's going to be a penalty, and they'll accept the penalty. 3 linemen and 4 linebackers for the defense. Tosses it over to the sideline. Deflected by the defender and incomplete. 2nd and 10 for the offense. QB back to pass. Makes the throw. The pass is intercepted. And the tackle is made. First and 10. Freeman drops back to pass. And he's immediately brought down. Gain of 18 on the play. Vegas calling a timeout here. They'll have just 1 remaining. Freeman steps back to throw. And the pass is incomplete. 2nd down and 10 to go. Muscles a pass. Ball's on a string. Barber's got it. A huge gain by the offense. from under center. Freeman lets it go. Snagged out of the air. And he'll be pulled down immediately. Gain of 12 on the play. Vegas calling a timeout here. That's their final timeout. Vegas breaks the huddle and comes up to the line. Dropping back, makes the throw to the middle of the field. And he's stopped up around the 20. That's good for a gain of 4. Vegas gets set on second down. He drops back. The pass is intercepted. He's not going any further. The offense looks to get things going here on first down. Schroeder steps back into the pocket. Deflected by the defender and incomplete. 2nd and 10. Schroeder surveys the field. Deflected by the defender and incomplete. 3rd down and 10 to go. Schroeder will give it away. And he's stopped around the 40-yard line. Short gain on the play. The punt team takes the field. The second quarter comes to an end. Las Vegas currently ahead in a tight race.
Let's say goodnight. I said goodnight. But y'all missing something? I think we're missing something, yes. Let's go! Let's go! Let's go!
Here comes the kicking team. Davenport kicks it away. He eludes the first defender, and he's tackled. The offense looks to get things going here on first down.
Tonight.
Freeman hands it off. And he's tackled up near the line of scrimmage. That's good for about 2.